Hi, it's Valen again. I thought I'd tackle something a bit different this time, I'm trying to bring a common sense discussion into the area of terrorism. There's been a lot of discussion recently on the causes of the terrorist attacks and the role of the UK's foreign policy decisions and the cuts in the staffing level in the police force in the recent terror attack in Manchester. The trouble is, a lot of that discussion has only been based on a partial understanding of the causes rather than being completely honest with ourselves, which has led to the whole discussion becoming a game of political football that isn't really going to give us any real answers. This is my attempt to frame a new discussion on the causes of terrorism that I hope might get us somewhere. I have to stress, I'm no expert. I'm just trying to use common sense to understand the the matter in hand. So, what are terrorists? Terrorists are someone who uses violence to cause terror. It's good to start off with these sort of basic ideas. And there are two types of terrorists. There are the leader types, and you've got your followers. The leader types are people for whom anger, rage, violence, and intolerance are a part of their inherent personality. They're master manipulators who will use any kind of system or thought or belief, distort it for their purposes, and then use that perverted belief system for the purposes of manipulating their followers. Most of all, the leader types are cowards. They prefer to send others to their deaths in pursuit of their beliefs because it feeds the leader's need for power and control. Why? Because they don't actually believe the crap they're spouting. Follower types are people who are looking for something to believe in, the lost souls who are looking for a purpose in life and are at risk of being swayed by a charismatic person who seems to offer them what they're looking for. They tend to be easily manipulated because they feel they've been ignored, persecuted, or marginalized from the rest of their community or society in general. Given attention and a purpose for possibly the first time in their lives, followers will do anything to further their leaders' ideas, including martyring themselves. However, some already have violent tendencies, the same violent tendencies as the leader types, but they haven't got the confidence to actually become a leader. And they find the outlet for these violent tendencies in the skewed belief system that they have been offered. So now we have a basic understanding of the types of terrorists. Now let's look at how radicalization works and the role of foreign policy in it. A master manipulator creates a perverted belief system based on a distorted version of a already existing system of belief or a philosophy. The manipulator then goes looking for those people who are so lost and rudderless in life that they can easily be manipulated. As a self-proclaimed leader of the new cause gains enough followers, sorry, I seem to be being sexist here, but it's usually, but not exclusively, a man who's in charge. The leader can then follow his true calling, spreading fear, violence, and death to feed his need for power and control. But a leader type can never have enough followers to feed his need, so his followers are required to bring more people into the fold. Now, while UK interventions aren't the complete answer to radicalisation, it does feed sufficient hatred towards Western countries to provide the manipulator with an enemy for his cause. Having an enemy, an out group, is absolutely key in manipulation. The leader might not actually believe in hatred of the West, but it does provide a focus for the rage he wishes to instill in his followers, and therefore it serves his purpose. The UK's intervention in Iraq was seen by many as an illegal war of aggression, which plays into the manipulator's narrative. The fact that Tony Blair lied to, or at the very least misled Parliament to gain consent for the invasion, adds further verisimilitude to the manipulator's narrative, which is the West is evil, hostile and corrupt. Of course, it's not just foreign policy that's played into the hands of the manipulators. The government's prevent strategy has been accused of being myopically focused on Muslims, and whether this is in fact a true reflection of the intent of the strategy, it has had the effect of making UK Muslims feel persecuted. This provides the ideal breeding ground for younger Muslims who may feel persecuted or marginalised or lost and rudderless to become radicalised as they look elsewhere for acceptance and something to believe in. It has been raised in the current debate that cuts to the staffing levels in the police force is a contributing factor to the Manchester tragedy. It's hard to fault that. A former community police officer who worked in inner city Manchester and was decorated by Theresa May when she was Home Secretary stated that he left because of the changes, and for that I would read cuts, to community policing in the area that had caused it to, in his words, collapse, and that intelligence had dried up. He said that neighbourhood policing had become reactive rather than proactive, and that national security was being put at risk as a result. Here's my source for that. Don't worry, I will put a link to it below this video. Now, whilst it is true that security services may have adequate funding and certainly do a wonderful job at keeping terrorist attacks to a minimum, it is also true that community policing provides valuable intelligence at the local level. Your local bobby is more likely to sense something going wrong. Whether people will actually go up to that bobby and actually tell them something is a different matter. But the prevent strategy is all focused around teachers and community groups, basically profiling, unfortunately, Muslim people, or that is the consequence rather than the intention. It would be wrong to say that the Manchester tragedy wouldn't have happened if there had been more community police officers, but it might have made it more difficult for it to have taken place. And now the UK has had to resort to having the army patrolling the streets for however short a time, which is probably feeding the terrorist leaders' feeling of power. Hate crime has spiked again in the UK, which may very well feed the growing sense of persecution and marginalisation within the Muslim community. This in turn may provide an incubator for the potential of radicalisation. Let's not forget that 3 of the 7/7 bombers and the Westminster attacker were UK-born citizens. The cycle has to be broken. The UK must think very carefully before making any interventions in terrorist-rich areas, and must stop creating the internal conditions in the country that allow radicalisation to occur within our own population. Now, I've used the current terrorist incidents to make my point, but Islamist extremists aren't the only threat. any form of belief system or philosophy can be perverted and used to promote a terrorist agenda, religion, political ideology, or philosophical systems. Hell, you might even get Harry Potter fans forming terrorist groups between Hufflepuff and Slytherin. If someone is clever enough to see potential in any kind of belief system, philosophy, or even a book, then they can use that to form any sort of perverted belief system. And again, it comes back to if someone's creative enough to get behind if someone can create a belief system that people can get behind, any group can become radicalized. With the way the current government has been persecuting the sick and disabled, I'm actually surprised that a disabled terrorist group hasn't been formed. But then perhaps the disabled are just better human beings than that. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Feel free to share this video and post your comments on the YouTube page below this video. But let's keep the discussion civil and constructive. Thanks for watching.